Ask the Masters is delighted to have for its Ramadan special show, Haji Syed Salman Chishty. Haji Syed Salman Chishty is the 26th generation custodian of Dargah Ajmer Sharif Chishty, the shrine of the Sufi saint Hazrat Khwaja Moinuddin Chishty. To tell you a little about Hazrat Khwaja Moinuddin Chishty, it is said that he was generous like the sea and hospitable like the earth. His instructive discourses are packed with spiritual wisdom, drawing local populace like the kings, nobles, peasants, paupers alike. So from the erstwhile Mughals like Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb, to the present day heads of states and film stars, we see that his dargah hosts millions of devotees who come from across the world to shower in his grace. Syed Salmanji's lineage goes back to this holy prophet. He is also the head of the Chishti Foundation. Passionate about the world Sufi traditions, Chishti ji has a degree in economics and commerce from Wilson College, Mumbai University, and he has given various discourses across the leading universities in the world like Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and the like. His extensive discourses have also seen conversations around Sufi poetry, Sufi musical renderings, Sufi arts, culture, etc. Nidhi ji?
He has further represented the Chishti Sufi order in countries as diverse as the Arabian Peninsula, Egypt, Turkey, Morocco, Senegal, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Singapore, United States of America, United Kingdom, Greece, Bosnia, the Netherlands, Iran, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and many others, China and Hong Kong as well, Myanmar also. Salman Bhai, Adab. It is indeed an absolute privilege and an honor to have you here with us today. Today's topic will be around Islamic spirituality. So please keep your questions live and coming. And as you watch, please do share the video at least once. It's time to make well-being viral. It is time to celebrate spirituality all across spiritual traditions. On that note, my first question to you, Salman Bhai, is that Islam happens to be one of the most misunderstood religions in the world today. Not only misunderstood by Muslims, but also by non-Muslims. From its attribution to fundamentalism, terrorism, aggression, to various biases and stereotypes, this beautiful, soft, spiritual dimension of the faith that you have been a propagator of has been completely eluded, if not lost. क्या कहना चाहेंगे आप इसके बारे में? Spirituality in Islam, आपसे जानना चाहूंगी.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As-salatu salam alayka ya Sayyid al-Mursaleen wa rahmatan lil alameen. The greeting of peace, Salam Alaikum, which itself, translate the essence of how Islam teaches us to look after each other, to greet each other, irrespective of the faith that they belong, irrespective of the tradition, irrespective of the country, the languages that they belong. Salam Alaikum means peace be upon you. And that shows the humility, the humbleness of the traditions that have been bestowed from generation to generation. When we look into the deeper aspect of this greeting itself, that how it is teaching us to take care of the whole humanity, आलम इंसानियत, कि तमाम इंसान और मखलूक खुदा कि आपको खिदमत भी करनी है, ख्याल भी रखना है और मोहब्बत के साथ उनके साथ गुजर बसर भी करना है. Hazrat Khwaja Gharib Nawaz, who's popularly known as among the masses as somebody who took care of the poor, the strangers, just Shlloka ji talked about the beautiful aspect of Khwaja Sahab's life, how he attributed the qualities of nature into one being, to be close to the Creator. So I extend my greeting of peace and gratitude and thanks to Shlloka ji, to Nidhi ji, you and your entire team who have brought together this beautiful platform of Ask the Masters, which, of course, I don't really consider myself as a master. We are all humble seekers, learners throughout our life. And it's a great honor and privilege that to be born and brought up at the one of the greatest Sufi shrine in not only in India, but the whole of South Asia. So it's also a big sense of responsibility that has been bestowed upon us from generation to generation. After 800 years, where we see, and in Ajmer Dargah Sharif itself, that people from all walk of life comes, from all faith traditions, because spiritual places is always for humanity. It is not religious specific, it is not community specific, it is not nation or nationalities or language specific. So yahi jo tarbiyat hai, the teachings, it is the essence of Islamic spirituality, what Khwaja Gharib Nawaz and the great Sufi masters, we can name streams of Sufi masters of every century after century, and especially we are lucky to be born and brought up in India, where India has always presented a unique perspective of the Sufi and the Bhakti traditions, where we have seen all the different languages, especially in North India, the Khadi Boli, the Brij Bhasha, and how Persian and Urdu integrated so beautifully. And the classical example we have is Hazrat Khwaja Amir Khusro. His poetry recitation in the Brij Bhasha, in the Khadi Boli, in the Persian, and in Urdu language are still recited even today. Even imagine something which he wrote 700 years back, and even today when it is recited, and people who are in the congregation, whether you are at Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya Dargah or Ajmer Sharif Dargah or any Chishti Khanka where Qawwalis are being recited and rendered, you see that people from all faith are united in not only listening to those renditions which were written 700 years back, but even today in 21st century, when you listen to them, you are transported and transformed away from your physical existence to a divine realm, which is denominated through these writings and the traditions of Nazm, Qawwali or Hamd. So the essence of Islamic spirituality is not only taught or talked, but even today lived at the great resting places of the spiritual masters across the world. We talk about Rumi, Hazrat Rumi, his Masnavi, his poetry has been translated into all the different languages around the world. In the Western civilization also, in America, he is the best-selling poet. So these are all primarily the mystics who live the essence of the faith that they belong. That is Islamic spirituality. And it was so open because Islamic spirituality and the universality of faith, of all faith, the universality is that people from different directions, from Maghrib to Mashriq, from east to the west, people can imbibe, people can live that, and there is no particular emphasis or you can say that in Quran al-Kareem it is said, La ikra fid din, that there is no jabr, there is no force, there is nothing to be forced upon the believers. It is for the heart, it is for the soul, and it is when it reaches the heart, automatically it becomes part of our daily life. And today that we are, we are using the digital technology because we have a situation, a pandemic, a global pandemic around the world. It is more so ever, it is so important to not only talk about religion, not only give discourses, not only just propagate or share it through, but it's all important to live the essence of faith. And it's not only for the community followers, or it is for universality of all faith that open these gates of divine deliverance and remembrance. Because when we remember, we call it the halqa-e-zikr, zikr Allah, the circle of remembrance. So in that circle of remembrance, these divine realities are opened up multifold. So when we say, peace be upon you, it is extended to everybody that you meet and greet, and that is the essence of Islamic spirituality, that you never make any distinction. And unfortunately, there are reasons of concern where literalists, people who take the literal meaning without even understanding the deeper meaning of what is being revealed. Because when you talk about Quran al-Kareem, it is like an ocean. Every word, I'm not talking even verse, but every word, as the Sufis have explained it, that every word, the tafsir, the explanation, the tarjuma is like an ocean. The deeper you go into that ocean, the more pearls you will take out from that ocean. If you will just remain on the surface, which unfortunately some fundamentalists, some literalists, and some extremists, you know, they just took the surface and they of course get deviated and diverted from the message itself.
Absolutely. As you said, pearls of wisdom coming from you. And ये जो सतरंगी सभ्यता के बारे में आपने बात की है, बहुत खूबसूरती से आपने बताया है. Salman bhai, to our viewers who are joining in now, we are in conversation with Syed Salman Chishty ji, the custodian of the Sufi shrine Ajmer Sharif. And please keep sending in your live questions. We'll try and get all of them answered from Salman bhai. जिस तरह आपने बहुत सुंदर तरीके से समझाया अभी भारत के बारे में और हमारी सभ्यता के बारे में. And there is only one religion, the religion of love. We live, we have a life question.
पैगाम है. और देखिए जैसे हम तो बारगाह गरीब नवाज में जब बचपन से बड़े हुए तो हमारे बुजुर्गों से the elders have always taught, not only for the बारगाह गरीब नवाज, but ये हमारे मुल्क की खूबसूरती के लिए भी यही कहा गया कि तेरा दयार है दार सलाम या ख्वाजा, your abode is the land of peace, ओ ख्वाजा, कि तेरा दयार है दार सलाम या ख्वाजा, तजल्लियां है नई सुबह शाम या ख्वाजा. There are divine grace and divine showers every moment, day and night on this land. ना फिक्र में ना गमे जाम तेरे मस्तों को, those who have been intoxicated with the love and the loving glance of yours have no fear and have no sorrow. तेरी एक निगाह से चलता है काम या ख्वाजा या ख्वाजा या ख्वाजा. Just with the loving glance our day-to-day life goes on and on. That's what the masters have always done. They are the real master. We are the seekers. We are the learners. The masters who have taught from generation to generation, from centuries after centuries, the Sufi Bhakti saints. And we have been so blessed to this land of Hindustan that we have been so resilient. Even today, when the whole world is under pandemic, under severe depression, Alhamdulillah, all praise to God that we as an Indian have this sacred spaces. Even if we are not being allowed to go to the spaces within our hearts and homes, we have those avenues that we can just sit together with our family and remember our Creator and send shukr. Because it is important when we remember the Creator, we have to be in the state of sabr and shukr. उस हालत सब्र और शुक्र के अंदर अगर हम अपनी इबादत करें, अपनी रियाजत करें, अपनी पूजा करें, हमारे रब को याद करें, तो कोई भी बड़ी क्राइसिस हो दुनिया की, उसको हम ओवरकम कर सकते हैं सब्र और शुक्र के साथ.
बिल्कुल ग्रैटिट्यूड के साथ. माफी चाहती हूँ आपको रोकने के लिए. We have several live questions pouring in and I'm taking the first one now. This question is from Kumar. What are the similarities, if any, between Gita and Quran? क्या कहना चाहेंगे आप? Or any other religious text?
All the revealed texts which we talk about Quran al-Kareem, there are many verses. Jैसे when I just talked about La ikra fi din, let there be no compulsion in religion. Ayat al-Khalqillah, that the whole world, whole kainat is the family, is one family. And similarly, when we talk about Vasudeva Kutumbakum, it also says that the world is all one family. So there are many, many examples that when we read into deeper meaning, on the surface, the writings, of course, the language could be different, the initial translation could be different, but we all know the source is one. Truth is one. There cannot be two aspects of any truth. And the Creator is one, and the creation, we are all part of the creation. So Khwaja Gharib Nawaz has also said that in this, that is पूरी दुनिया के अंदर पूरी कायनात में सिर्फ दो ही हकीकत हैं, एक खालिक, the Creator, and makhluk, the creation. And if we want to get close to the Creator, be in service to the creation. And this is the common aspect of all faith traditions. तो इसीलिए अगर हम किसी भी ग्रंथ का, किसी भी होली टेक्स्ट का, किसी रिवलेशन का अगर हम पाठ करते हैं तो हम अपने कल्ब के साथ, we should sit with our heart, not only with our mind, with the language, but also with the essence of what we are reading. अगर हम बात करें हमारे देश हिंदुस्तान की खूबसूरती की, तो मैं एक मरतबा लंदन में था और वहाँ पे ब्रिटिश लाइब्रेरी में कुछ पुराने जो पर्शियन टेक्स्ट हैं उनके मैं रिसर्च के लिए वहाँ पे गया था, ब्रिटिश लाइब्रेरी के पर्शियन। और क्योंकि हमारा जो असल सरमाया है, बहुत सारे हमारे खजाने, सिर्फ सोना चांदी ही नहीं लेकिन बहुत सारे रूहानी खजाने भी दौरे अंग्रेजों की हुकूमत में, ब्रिटिश एम्पायर के टाइम यहाँ से चले गए। तो जब मैं वहाँ गया तो वहाँ पे कुछ किताबें उन्होंने, जहानारा की एक मुनुसिल अरवा भी, ब्यूटीफुल बुक रिटन बाय जहानारा अबाउट हर स्पिरिचुअल एक्सपीरियंस इन इंडिया, अबाउट हर विजिट टू द चिश्ती दरगाह एंड खानकाह। तो वहीं पे मेरे जो दोस्त थे साकिब, उन्होंने एक किताब रखी, बड़ी खूबसूरत, गिल्डेड इन गोल्ड एंड ब्यूटीफुली पर्शियन बुक। अगर किसी को पर्शियन जबान ना आए तो वो समझेगा कि ये कोई इस्लामिक किताब होगी, लेकिन वो भगवत गीता का ट्रांसलेशन था जो दारा सिखों ने किया। मतलब उसने ओम नमः शिवाय फारसी में लिखा था उसके पहले पेज के ऊपर। सो दैट इज हाउ एडवांस इंडिया वाज। और जब हम टुडे आज मीडिया के चैनलों को जब खोल के, मैं तो ज्यादा बैठता नहीं हूँ, लेकिन जब देखते हैं और सुनते हैं, हमें बड़ा अफसोस होता है कि किस मकाम पे जो उरूज था हमारे मुल्क हिंदुस्तान का रूहानी मामलात में, एक दूसरे से सीखने के लिए। चाहे हम बाबा फरीद की बात करें कि इन द 13th century lot of yogis and sadhus and rishis used to come to Baba Farid Khanka, and likewise in Gorakhnath Peeth. In Gorakhnath Peeth, even recently, before the British came in, the Muslim yogis bhiksha used to given to them. तो बड़ा ही एक इंटर एक्सचेंज लाइवली होता था। आज हम एक दूसरे के ऊपर शक करने लग गए हैं, सवाल करने लगे हैं, मजहबी झगड़े और फसाद हम मीडिया के ऊपर होते देख रहे हैं। लेकिन उस हमारे ट्रेडिशन और ग्लोरियस ट्रेडिशन को, स्पिरिचुअल ट्रेडिशन को हम कहाँ भूल गए? वो लाइव स्ट्रीम में, वो बातों में, वो इन डिबेट्स में क्यों नहीं आता कि बाबा फरीद की खानका का जिक्र हो, गोरखनाथ पीठ का जिक्र हो, हजरत बुल्ले शाह का जिक्र हो, या अमीर खुसरो का जिक्र हो, या मीरा का जिक्र हो, जो ऐसे इन लोगों ने उस चीज को जिया और एक दूसरे से सीखा, कभी अपने आप को दूर नहीं रखा। कि अगर हम किसी खानका में जाएंगे, किसी दरगाह पे जाएंगे या किसी मठ में जाएंगे तो वहां से हम क्या नहीं सीख सकते? हम सब कुछ सीख सकते हैं। तो आज इसी चीज को हमारे स्पिरिचुअल मास्टर्स को भी वापस आम लोगों में, आम आवाम में, जनरेशन में, वी हैव टू ब्रिंग बैक दैट ग्लोरियस स्पिरिचुअल ट्रेडिशन दैट इंडिया was, has always been, and because of that we were known as the Vishwa Guru in the world. Not only,
और उम्मीद करते हैं, दुआ करते हैं कि फिर से भारत विश्व गुरु बनेगा। उमर, उम्मीद करती हूँ आपको अपने सवाल का जवाब मिल गया होगा। चलते हैं हम दूसरे सवाल की ओर। शिखा आर्या राइट्स टू अस, why is there a dress code for women in Islam? थोड़ा सा बताएंगे आप सलमान भाई?
शिखा, आपका सवाल जो है, देखें, ये कोई भी स्पेसिफिक ड्रेस कोड इस्लाम में ही नहीं बल्कि पूरे किसी दुनिया के मजहब में कोई ड्रेस कोड नहीं है। हर जगह ये बात कही गई है कि ड्रेस मॉडेस्टली, एंड लाइकवाइज इन इस्लाम आल्सो इट हैज बीन एम्फसिस दैट ड्रेस मॉडेस्टली, एंड मॉडेस्टी कुड बी of course regional based, it could be different culture has their own modesty. So the only requirement is, I won't say even a requirement, it is not even it is a self ordained understanding that people have to, when we are talking, or we are just like when we go to any gurudwara or any temple or any dargah or any masjid, it comes from within that we are entering a sacred space, so that we dress modestly. And for this for the Sufis, the whole world is a sacred space. No space in this world is devoid of the divine presence. कि उस खुदा की जो प्रेजेंस है उससे तो कोई जगह महरूम नहीं है। तो हर जगह अगर हम उस खुदा को पाते हैं, उस खुदा को महसूस करते हैं, तो अपने आप को एक मॉडेस्ट तरीके से रखना, आई थिंक इट इज पार्ट ऑफ आवर डेली लाइफ, द वे वी कीप आवर सोल हेल्दी, द वे कीप आवर बॉडी हेल्दी, द माइंड हेल्दी, दैट इज ऑल्सो अ रिक्वायरमेंट दैट हैज बीन बेस्टोड अपॉन द वे ऑफ लाइफ दैट हैज बीन गिफ्टेड टू ऑल ह्यूमैनिटी. So it is part and parcel of our daily life to dress modestly, and that is the only way to look at it. There is no dress code specifically mentioned, but to be dressed modestly, humbly. When you walk on the face of earth, be modest, be humble, never be in arrogance, never be in your own ana or be slave of your own ego.
And more importantly, be rooted. Be rooted. On that note, Shloka, can you take the other questions, please? There are lots and lots of questions pouring in. आपसे बात करना चाहते हैं श्लोका
जी. So Sufism is considered to be the pulse of spirituality in Islam, Salman ji. And if we look at modern sciences, it has recently taken a keen interest in so many of our Eastern traditions, such as Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Hinduism. In the present day, we see the mindfulness practice of meditation become a rage all over. It is used as a very strong and a great intervention in so many therapies. However, when we look at the tradition of spirituality within Islam, it is arguably the least examined of all spiritual traditions world over. So even today, when we talk about Islam, we talk about spirituality, when we talk about well-being, Islam is not the first thing that comes into our minds. So if you can explain the role of Islamic spirituality in mental and emotional well-being, for example, in, say, curing anxiety and depression, which is already on a rise in the present time. Salmanji.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I'm thanked that, you know, we're talking about, and also now a lot of people are eager to know about this, especially maybe this is a blessing in disguise that the whole world is reading an unseen book. Whether you call it the pandemic or whatever you call it, but I think, you know, of course, we grieve for the lives that have been lost, the people who have been suffered from this. But at the same time, it should be taken up as an opportunity from God to get close to Him. And spirituality is all about an experience. Itself, the spirituality that comes from the faith perspective is also experiential. And when we talk about faith, religion like Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, it is all experiential at the end of the day. If you haven't experienced the faith, no matter how much reading, no matter how much lectures, no matter how much discourses that you give or you listen, this is not going to touch the heart. The essence of spirituality is to touch the heart, is to nourish the soul. If the soul is not nourished, then obviously these issues that comes up with depressions and all. I'll share one example that I was in Harvard about a couple of years back. I was at a conference in Harvard Divinity School, and we were talking about the Chishti spirituality. So some of the students, they stood up and they asked some questions, which to me it was quite a surprise that, you know, being at Harvard, you expect the students would be, you know, knowing that what you're talking about. But to my surprise, that many students, they might be, of course, excellent in their streams of MBA or the law or the foreign policies or the stream that we're studying. But when it talks about Indian spirituality or the traditions here, the questions are very basic, that, you know, why music is there in Islam. You know, we heard about that music is haram in Islam and things like that, which I just smiled that, you know, the ill information that has been given to these students and the spiritual understanding. So I said that, you know, that is absolutely, there is no question of such thing, that a thing that can get you close to the Creator is being forbidden. And spiritual music, when we talk about Qawwali, I gave them an example of Qawwali, that for the Chishtis, and Shlloka ji, it is also the question that you asked, because I'm talking about the Chishti spirituality. So for the Chishtis, the Sufi Qawwali, the music is Ruh ki Giza, food for the soul. And I said the same exact words which I'm telling you now, and the students there were very surprised, and also like kind of they took it as a shock. I said, if the Chishtis don't listen to Qawwali for more than 3 days, they will die. And they were like completely in a shock. So I said, I smiled and said, it's not the physical death, it's the sickness of the soul. So the primary essence of spirituality is nourishing the soul. If we are devoid of the nourishing of the soul, then all these problems of depression, and in America, I asked them what is the top 5 ailments, and one of them is depression. Because they might be very good in feeding the body, they are very good with their vitamins, their health, they're going to the gym, but they are devoid of the spiritual supplements.
Yes,
and the spiritual supplement is meditation, the zikr that we talked about earlier. I talk about the zikr Allah when we close our eyes and we remember the God, and in any way that is bestowed upon the community or the people that you come along, as sama itself is zikr. When people listen to the sama, they are in a state of zikr, a high elevation. So imagine a body which has not been nourished for a week. What will happen to the body? You will become weak, right? And for another few days, if you don't eat and drink, what will happen? You will be on bed. As per scientific evidence, a human body, a normal human being, I'm not talking about saints or those who have attained, through their siddhi and meditation and reflection, They can go on and on days and days. We have known about the saints in India, how they used to be, completely without food and water for months and months. I'm not talking about those people, but common people cannot go beyond 40 days. After 40 days, the body cannot sustain without food and water. Imagine the soul. To all the viewers, I'm asking now this, that imagine the soul who have not been nourished for years and years and years. Forget about nourishment, who are not even acknowledging the presence of the soul within the body. Not even a minute in a day that we have been given to the presence of the soul in the body. Imagine what will happen to the soul for years and years who has not received any nourishment. And that is the problem with the Western civilization, that they might be very tall, big, and healthy, but within themselves, they are completely devoid of the spiritual understanding. A friend of mine, Brian from America, he had come to Ajmer Dargah Sharif. Who had come to Asia for the first time to train HSBC bank employees, a very top executive in a monitor group. So with common friends, he came to Ajmer Dargah Sharif. We went to the Dargah Sharif. He saw all the 800 years old monuments, the architectural designs who have constructed. But when we went inside the Dargah, we offered, in 5 minutes, we went inside, offered some flowers, green chadar. When we came out, he holded my hand. Okay, Mr. Chishty, I understood everything outside the architectural design, the history, 800 years, rulers, who came here, who built what. But can you explain what happened inside? He was very emotional. So I looked at him and he said, did you feel anything? He said, I didn't understand what you recited inside in Urdu and Arabic, but when that cloth was over my head and we were inside, after many, many years, I could remember my grandmother. That has never happened to me. The only memory I have with my grandmother is that during my childhood, she used to take me to the church. And after that, I have no connection with God, spirituality. I'm in my corporate world, But at the end of the day, I always used to feel some void. I don't know what, and after so many years, I could remember my grandmother. Can you explain me what happened inside? So I smiled at him. I told him, I'm going to explain, you will miss your flight, because he has to go back to Jaipur and get the flight to Mumbai. But I told him that in one line, I'll tell you something and remember this all your life, that probably this was the moment that you experience the presence of the soul within your body. So never forget the presence of the soul within your body. Honor the presence of the soul. I'm not going to give you big verses to remember, to chant. Just when you wake up in the morning, be in the state of sabr and shukr to the Lord, the Creator. And when you are going to bed, take 5 minutes and communicate with the soul. Listen to the whispers of your soul. Try to understand what the soul is communicating to you. And then again, be in sabr and shukr. And that's it. He went there. And even after 6-7 years, even today, Shlloka ji and Nidhi ji, he calls me Brian. And he said, from that day, my life has changed. When I walk into the office, my corporate office, earlier it was only profit and losses, board meetings. But when I walk now, I could see the smiles of my colleagues. I could see the emotions. And that is a big change for me. That void, which was earlier on pills, I was making myself go to sleep on pills. Now I'm off pills and I'm content. Whether we make profit or losses, at the end of the day, I'm content that I am conscious of my soul. And I think this is the big thing.
जैसे आपने कहा, gratitude and gut feeling both need to be there in our lives and they can never be wrong. And Shloka, there's some live questions flashing by. Could you take those two, please, before I proceed to the next question?
So we have one question come from Shivain Kumar. He writes, to my mind, religions have sprung up and evolved from some specific practices that must have been good for the soul or the cosmic body within a person. So I noticed that some specific practices are common to various faiths. For example, going around a place of faith or wearing white clothes, Hinduism for instance, is similar to Islamic practices, especially in the Mecca. Would this be considered as a practice that is towards a spiritual end? Would you please elaborate on this, Chishti ji? I think that the reference is to the parikrama or the circles that is taken and seen similar in both traditions. Ji.
Of course, there is also answer to the question that our brother has asked, that the spiritual essence of anything that we do. In Islam, any act that we do is based upon the intention. तो जो नीयत हमारी है, हमारा जो भी कर्तव्य है, जो भी हम काम करते हैं वो नीयत के ऊपर होता है. अगर हम नमाज भी पढ़ते हैं, इवन इफ वी स्टैंड फॉर प्रेयर्स, बिफोर दैट वी डू नीयत. और देखिए नीयत की ये बरकत है कि अगर हमने कोई अच्छे काम करने की नीयत करी, अगर दुनियावी मामलात की वजह से हम वो चीज़ नहीं कर पाए, अगर हमने कहीं किसी धाम पे जाने की नीयत करी, या कहीं जाने की, या हमने हज पे जाने की नीयत करी, उम्रे पे जाने की नीयत करी, जैसा कि अभी मैं पढ़ रहा था ये कोविड-19 के लिए, ठीक है, कई ऐसे मैंने न्यूज़ भी पढ़ी कि कुछ एक खातून थी पंजाब में, एक एल्डरली लेडी थी, उन्होंने अपनी पूरी सेविंग हज पे जाने के लिए जमा करी, लेकिन जब ये वबा आई, जब उन्हें देखा कि अफरत, उन्होंने पूरी सेविंग से वहाँ के आस पड़ोस के लोगों के जो जरूरतमंद लोग थे उनकी नीड को पूरा करा और शुक्र भेजा अपने खुदा का. सो देखिए, उनको उस खिदमत का भी सवाब मिलेगा, शी विल बी बेनिफिटेड व्हाट शी डिड, बट आल्सो शी विल बी रिवॉर्डेड फॉर हर नियत, फॉर द इंटेंशन दैट शी मेड फॉर हज. सो इक्वली शी इज बीइंग बेस्टोड फॉर दैट नियत. दैट इज द स्पिरिचुअल एसेंस ऑफ एवरी प्रैक्टिस दैट वी डू in all faith tradition. If our niyat is not honest, that no matter how many circles that you do around the Kaaba, or no matter how many sacred places that you visit, if the niyat is not right, if the intention is not right, then I don't think that we will be rewarded for just making a physical movement. So the spiritual essence of any act, which the brother asked about the traditions, is solely based on the honesty, the clarity and sincerity of the niyat al-husna, a noble and beautiful intention.
बिल्कुल जैसे आपने कहा.
And I think one quick question from yes, Nina Rajdev. She writes, "Sir, when Sai Baba and Bade Baba made no distinction in faiths, they were pious fakirs. How can we bring those era or time back? Only humanity." So she wants to know from you, how can we bring the era of equanimity back?
Nina ji, thank you for that question. I visited, whenever I go to Shirdi, I've been there a few times, and also there are some mazars inside. And when we just talked about it, we talked about not only Sai Baba, but era even before that. We talked about Hazrat Baba Farid, we talked about Hazrat Guru Nanak Sarkar, we talked about Gorakhnath Mat, we talked about various omnipresence tradition, which we now see that how much more evolved we were spiritually back in those centuries than in today's century. Today we think we are progressing, we are going, we are progressing, but to my understanding, it is the degradation of the society as a whole which is happening. We are not progressing by making huge buildings or like 100 stories buildings or big technological advances, which is important, medical advances, technology, which is important for the human evolution. But at the same time, if we are degrading our spiritual understanding, which was so evolved in India, and today when we see that the youngsters on Twitter or the social media, they are just accusing each other, they are questioning each other about practices, about the saints, about things like that. It is so unfortunate. It is us who can bring back that era by not only preaching or talking or just accusing each other or getting into unnecessary debates. The Chishtis never debated each other. There was a strict rule in the Chishti Khankas that no debates were allowed. Discussions were allowed. Yes, discuss as much as we can so that we can learn from each other. When we are debating, all these TV debates, it's like totally absurd, because when we are debating, there will be one panel who will be against and for. And you could give 100 reasons, but the against will be always against and for will be always for. So they will, at the end of the debate, they will never come on a common understanding. But discussions, even if we have different views, at the end of the discussion, we will create common ground. And India, our beautiful country, Hindustan, has always created those middle ground, not only for Indians, but for the world. And today is the time that we bring back those common grounds, as Maulana Rumi has said, that out beyond the ideas of right doings and wrongdoing, there is a field. Let's meet there. And India has always been that field, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoings and right doings. कि क्या सही है, क्या गलत है, उसके अलावा भी एक जगह है. चलो वहां मिलते हैं, जहां दिल मिले, जहां मिले और हमारे देश की खूबसूरती मिले.
बहुत सुंदर, क्या बात, क्या बात. और यहीं पे मैं कहना चाहूंगी आपसे कि मैं बचपन से एक कपलेट रिसाइट करती हूँ हमेशा दरगाह पे, क्योंकि मैं हैदराबाद की हूँ, आपको तो पता ही है। ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता सुभान आका इन्नी कुंतम मिनज ज़ालिमीन। ये भारत एक दिन एक विश्व गुरु बने, ऐसी हमारी सभी की आस्था मास्टर्स में ये चाहत है। यहीं पे मैं लेती हूँ अपना अगला सवाल। There is a huge body of literature which focuses on self-realization and spiritual healing in Sufi practices. Realization is the backbone of all spiritual practices worldwide. It is so interesting to know that the main teachings of Sufi order stresses on awakening the self alongside with love, compassion, peace, contentment. If you can talk a little bit about the spiritual healing and self-realization and how this could be achieved according to you and the practices which
Ajmer Sharif की जब बात करें ख्वाजा गरीब नवाज, his only way of healing, of meeting, of teaching was unconditional love. कि मोहब्बत सबसे और नफरत किसी से नहीं. अगर दिलों में कोई फर्क आया, that will affect our spiritual understanding. So we need more than anything else the healing of the heart, and that can only be achieved with unconditional love. आज हम दरगाह अजमेर शरीफ की बात करें, जहाँ पे जो हमारा लंगर है, बेशक वो एक जिस्मानी जो हमारी ज़रूरत है, जो हमारी हंगर है, उसको तो सब्सिडाइज करता ही है, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ रूह की गिज़ा का भी काम करता है, क्योंकि 800 साल बाबा गरीब नवाज और चिश्ती खानकाओं का ये निज़ाम रहा है कि एक प्योर वेजिटेरियन लंगर, जो दलिया जो होता है सुबह शाम 800 साल से हर रोज़ जो बढ़ता है, ताकि हर मजहब व मिल्लत के लोग आपस में आए और बैठें और वो लंगर खाएं। क्योंकि सूफियों ने, संतों ने हमेशा एक बात का ख्याल रखा है, चाहे वो जो भी ट्रेडिशन हो, चाहे वो जिक्र का तरीका हो, चाहे वो तरीका जो भी हो, कि किसी भी इंसान का दिल में ये ना आए कि भाई हम इस जगह को या इस निज़ाम को बिलोंग नहीं करते हैं। तो जो खानकाई निज़ाम का जो लंगर का सिस्टम है कि यहाँ पे हर मजहब और मिल्लत के लोग आते हैं, यहाँ तक कि जो हमारे जैन ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स है उनका भी ख्याल रखते हुए वी डोंट इवन यूज अनियन एंड गार्लिक इनटू द लंगर दैट इज सर्व्ड एट द दरगाह शरीफ, कि एक दस्तरखान पे हम सब बैठें और उस रब का शुक्र अदा करें। तो ये हीलिंग की जब हम बात करें, द स्पिरिचुअल हीलिंग इज द एसेंस ऑफ अनकंडीशनल लव। जब तक हमारे दिलों के अंदर ये मोहब्बत नहीं होगी, नो मैटर हाउ मेनी, देखिए मैंने भी बात करी डिप्रेशन की, तो हम केमिकल्स की तरफ चले जाएं, उससे आपको कुछ लम्हों की नींद तो आ जाएगी, लेकिन वो आपको और डेप्रिविएशन और डिग्रेडेशन में लेके जाएगी। सो वी मस्ट क्लीन आवर हार्ट, and once we have the nobility of the intention, then our every practice will become zikr. हम सांस भी लेंगे, even our breath, with that clarity and purity, even our breath will become our zikr. We don't have to sit in seclusion and we don't have to chant huge mantras or take the beads. Our breath will be our meditation. Our breath will be our prayer bead. Our breath will be the one that will cleanse within ourselves. It will cleanse our environment, our surroundings, our neighbors, our people we interact, our society, our nation, and the world. It is the nafs, the breath, that has to be work as a spiritual healing.
आपने इतनी बढ़िया बात कही है। अभी we all resonate with the views, Shloka and I especially, that breath is the key. That is the key to the universal secrets. And on that note, I'm taking another question. Salman bhai,
I also add over here, जब हम योगिक जी बताएं।
जी, I want to hear Shloka ji.
Avinash Sorti writes, एक second, what is the difference between religion and spirituality? Since there's a very fine line, आप समझाना चाहेंगे इनको, अविनाश जी को, the difference between religion and spirituality.
Spirituality and religion is to those who have attained, who have realized the essence of religion, that will take you to spiritual understanding. If you get stuck in the literal understanding and you get slave to your own nafs, to your own ego in following any faith, it will not do any good to you, because religion is not for your ego. Religion is for you, for your humble essence that you carry within yourself. So never let religion boast your ego, and ultimately that ego makes you slave of it. Once we overcome this enslavement of the ego, the divine realities, the beauties, and the spiritual bounties are bestowed, not only bestowed, it's showered upon the seekers.
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब. Shloka, can you take the next question, please?
Ji. So, in the Sufi spiritual literature, we talk about an aura or the energy field. And they say when that is imbalanced with the aura or the energy field of the universe, which I believe is known as Noor, then it leads to a certain imbalance in health. And I find this quite striking because the concept of Panch Mahabhutas in the yogic lore is quite similar. Similarly, there's a huge body, you've spoken about it through the duration of this program, about meditation, about chanting, about breath work, exercising intuition, exercising awareness, seeking periods of isolation, of silence. I was reading an article which talked about how dua is used as psychotherapy. There's so many herbal remedies that we talk about. So for so many of our viewers who are watching this and getting this vantage point of Islam for the first time, it is very, very fascinating to see this confluence of Islamic and non-Islamic spiritual traditions together. You were just mentioning about the langar served at Ajmer Sharif, which is purely vegetarian. You spoke about Baba Farid and how he hosted yogis and meditators from various spiritual traditions. You also talked about the breath work. And as a yogi, breath is called the Kurmnari in the yogic tradition. And breath is all that is, which is the doorway to the Supreme. So there are so many fascinating overlaps. If you can give us more such overlaps and parallels that we can take with us today.
Well, absolutely. That's a very, very good insight. And also, I always try to learn at the same time when we are sharing, because learning and sharing has to be parallel. So many things that I learned right now when we are discussing, and also when we are having good questions, because Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhu, who's one of the essence of all the spiritual tradition, all the lineages goes back to Hazrat Ali, and he is like the door of ilm. When Prophet, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuwa. And I'm the city of knowledge, and Ali is the door. So all the spiritual tradition, the Sufi lineages, goes back to Hazrat Ali. And we talked about meditation and zikr. So it is equally important to understand that breath. It's as mentioned in the Quran al-Kareem that the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he created Adam, it was the breath which was spirited into the clay of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, which brought forth the life. So it is equally important to focus on the breath. In Islamic spirituality, in Sufi understanding, the way and practices circles around this breath, and there is a sitta lataif, 7 spiritual receptors within the body, which the Sufis have given different ways of meditation to awaken them. We call them the sir, kafi, akfa, bar. So there's a different position of these spiritual centers within the body. The more you do your zikr, the more they are awakened. One important thing that I would like to share with young people who have been just blessed with babies or who are going to have babies, when inshallah. So this is something which I practice. Whatever I'm sharing here, it is everything that I practice myself. So be in the state of purity in wuzu. And the important thing that I do when the babies are born, they are under the most high elevated station of spirituality. For the first 1,000 days, when the babies are born, this sitta lataif that I just talked about, which sometimes can take seekers years and years to awaken them and take them to that level of wilaya, to the level of sainthood, when the babies are born, their spiritual receptors, this sitta lataifs, are at the level of sainthood. For the first 1,000 days, the way you deal, the way you give the tarbiyah, your teachings to these children are going to be the backbone of their life. So even when the babies are sleeping, if the husband and wife are arguing or fighting, they might be okay after a couple of hours. But those words which are spoken out of anger in front of those baby in that initial 1,000 days will remain with them for the rest of the life. So please, please, please take care of the babies and learn from them. They are the masters when the babies are born. You know, it is said that जब बच्चे मुस्कुराते हैं तो फरिश्ते उनसे बात करते हैं. ये कौन सा मकाम है ये वही मकाम है जब सेंट, जब बड़े बुजुर्गान दीन, जो सूफी औलिया जब मुस्कुराते हैं तो फरिश्ते उनसे बात करते हैं, लेकिन बच्चे जब पैदा होते हैं ये उस मकाम में पैदा होते हैं कि their spiritual receptors, as we grow up, our spiritual receptors, if we are directing our energies towards the world, जब हम दुनिया की तरफ माइल होते हैं तो हमारे जो physical senses हैं वो तो बड़े होते हैं, हमारे जो physical receptors हैं वो तो they grow up, but the spiritual receptors diminish if we are not under the circle of remembrance. अगर हम जिक्र के दायरे में नहीं हैं, meditation के दायरे में नहीं हैं, if we are not under the circle of spiritual understanding, then we might grow up to the world, but we lose something that we all have been born with, our spiritual receptors. To continue nourishing these spiritual receptors, they will keep us within the circle of remembrance and divine spirituality. तो देखें, जब अब बच्चा पैदा होता है तो सबसे पहली चीज हम क्या करते हैं? बहुत सारे लोग इसमें क्वेश्चन करते हैं, नहीं जब बच्चे 7-8 बरस के होंगे then they'll start understanding. Of course, in the physical sense, yes, but not in the spiritual sense. जब बच्चे पैदा होते हैं तो देखें, इस्लाम में यह है कि उसके कान में अजान दी जाती है. हर धर्म में एक ट्रेडिशन है, या तो कोई मंत्र पढ़े जाते हैं, कुछ करा जाता है. क्यों करे? क्या जहनी तौर पे, if the argument we take those argument that they don't understand anything, does the child understand what is being recited? No, in his mind, but the effect of what is being recited, जो हम पढ़ रहे हैं, that breath that is being उनके कानों में जब वो आवाज जा रही है, that breath is going inside the baby, that is nourishing the soul of the baby, which is requiring the nourishment unprecedented. मतलब वो जब बड़े होते हैं उतनी जरूरत नहीं होती जितनी उस वक्त होती है. तो इसलिए जो पहले 1000 दिन होते हैं उसमें अपने बच्चों का बहुत बहुत ख्याल रखें, चाहे वो सो भी रहे हैं तो आपस में मोहब्बत से बात करें, उनको अपनी प्रेयर्स में रखें साथ में, और जो भी आप करते हैं that will affect them for the rest of their life. So remember the first 1000 days of the babies and learn from the babies during those 1000 days. You look at them, they smile and you learn so many things. I've been just blessed with a baby boy and he's going to be about 8 months. I had a daughter earlier and I'm learning so much from them every day.
How beautiful, how beautiful. Bahut khubsurat. Shloka, another question please.
We have one question coming from Neer Sharma. What do you have to say about people propagating that who don't follow Islam is a kafir and should convert and only worship Allah?
Again, can I have the question again? I was just reading. What do you have to say about propagating those who don't follow Islam is a kafir and should convert and only worship Allah? As I said earlier, that in Islam, the followers, the believers are Muslims. But it is the marhamat. Marhamat is the mercy of God is not only restricted to Muslims. It's believers. The word is believer. Mu'mineen wa mu'minat. Not only when we talk about the rahmat of Allah, it is not only bestowed upon Muslim or Muslimat. The word that comes in Quran is mu'mineen wa mu'minat. Believers. So believers in the one truth, no matter which direction, which dimension you come in, it's the seekers who lead to that truth. So at the end of the day, all the one who have evolved talk about the oneness of being. It is the word and the explanation and the definition, which I said earlier also, those who have deviated from the literal interpretation. Literal interpretation is the one that creates these differences and divisions, and people who want to take benefit out of there, the worldly benefit, to keep control over people, who wants to control communities, who wants to close the mind and the doors of hikmah to the people, the wisdom behind the revealed text, is those who use this to profess their own egoistic understanding of faith, not as it has been revealed to the whole of humanity, the whole of insaniyat. So it is, I think earlier, that la ikra fi din, there is no compulsion in religion. It has been bestowed, it has been revealed. It is up to a seeker which path you come in. If you are not enslaved by your ego, the doors of hakika, the truth, is open for all. And the mercy, marhamat, mercy is for all. Mu'mineen or mu'minat.
What Sundar, what Sundar. Is there any other live question? Should I take on?
मोहब्बत का
निधि जी,
पैगाम है,
definitely.
यही पैगाम है मोहब्बत का, इंसानियत का, दीन का भी वही पैगाम है। जिस दीन में मोहब्बत नहीं, वो इंसान की बनाई हुई तकरीरों से लोग उससे परे हो सकते हैं, लेकिन जो कायनात में जो हमारे शिकार, जो क्रिएटर जो है, द वन ट्रुथ is within ourselves, and we all know it, we all feel it at times, but only our mind and our ego keeps it away from that. So everything is within ourselves, our heart, which is the most sacred part of our being. It's within us. It's only that we are blinded with the ways of the world, the blind materialistic pursuits that keeps us away from experiencing it. Hazrat Data Ali Hajweri, the 10th century Sufi master, whose shrine is in Lahore. Of course, it was all part of our greater Hindustan, and the Sufis and the saints always live without borders. So he wrote a book, Kashful Mahjub, and it is said about this book that whoever has not written any book about Sufism or spirituality, this one book would be enough. Kashful Mahjub, Bezels of Wisdom. It is says that in this he said that God lifts anything that happens within our life. Even this moment, which is unfolding, has a reason. Nothing happens without a reason. Every human being which has been come to this world has a purpose. God has created everybody with a purpose. It is up to us, with the attuned understanding of spiritual revelations, that how we realize the purpose of our creation. And if we are not diverted towards the ways or blind materialistic grab of the world, which we say that halat e gaflat, तो हमें दुआ यही करनी चाहिए कि ऊपर वाला हमें गफलत से दूर रखे. Heedlessness. The translation of being gaflat is heedlessness. That by pursuing the materialistic weed, we become in a state of gaflat. तो हमें हालत e gaflat से दूर रहें and be in the state of shaur, paying heed to things which are spoken, which are not even spoken. अगर हम हालत से गफलत से दूर हैं, तो ऊपर वाला हमारी आंखों पे जो पर्दे हैं उनको दर पर दर वो पर्दे उठाता रहता है, और हमें नजर आता है कि जो पहले हुआ था वो इसलिए हो रहा है, और जो आगे होने वाला है, something which has to come, which will be much more beautiful. So what is happening right now is beautiful. It is not only this by chance or coincidence that we are all together in this show, or people who are listening to us. There is a much more greater meaning to it, and this should not end when we sign off. It should extend and evolve when we sign into the internet. We could sign off to the internet, but we should always be signing towards our internet. Because as I said, the importance of masters has always been there. Google is important, right? But Google can never replace a guru. So the internet should always be open. We should always be connected with our internet. Along with internet, there is no harm. It gives us a way to connect like we are today. But once we sign off, even the viewers and of course you all, this is not by chance that we are meeting. This is a choice that we all have made. We have dedicated and diverted our hearts to the one truth, and we are all together in this. Inshallah, we will continue this, whether in Zahiri by talks, but within our heart. So that's how we will evolve together in our spiritual pursuit, inshallah.
Inshallah to that, because जिस तरह आपने कहा, हमने खुद ही सोचा that we would call this program inwards initially, and then we thought of Ask the Masters because it added up to 42, which is our lucky number. Shloka, is there any other question or should I move on to mine? We are getting so many questions from Pakistan, Afghanistan. So this is a global family. There are countless questions flashing on my other phone. Time कम पड़ेगा, पर फिर एक बार और आपसे दरखास्त करेंगे आने के लिए. Yes, Shloka?
जी निधि जी.
Okay. So fasting, Salman Bhai, it has been seen in a significant way in all religions, traditions. Like we have in Hinduism, we have Ekadasi, we have Navaratri, we have Akka in Baha'i, we have Vinaya in Buddhism, a black fast in Christianity, Bigu in Taoism, and Paryushan in Jainism. Fasting is also known to break the cycles of compulsiveness within individuals, but it also cleanses this system and makes us more receptive to the supreme energy. That's what it has been, seen. So Can you tell us about this ultimate nature? If you could briefly talk about Ramadan and how its connection with spirituality and the benefits of fasting.
Well, alhamdulillah, Ramzan is a very sacred month. And today, as I said earlier, that the Ramzan month is this year. Although we are not been able to go to the mosque, although we are not been able to observe it like every year, every year the flavor and the color of Ramadan is very different. But this is very, very intense moment. As I said earlier, that the whole world is reading an unseen book together. So we are all together in this. And fasting is, of course, an integral part, praying, meditation. In any case, every year, this is 1 month that I don't travel anywhere other than this 1 month that I just cancel all my traveling. And likewise, this year that we are all home praying together. So Ramadan opens up those avenues of the that all year round, that it's like kind of detoxification. If I talk into a general sense, it is much more deeper than detoxification. It's not only restraining or from food, but also that you get close to your inner self, and you have those answers that all year round, that you seek those answers in your pursuits, in your prayers. But this is a moment which is kind of really focusing and concentrating on the divine essence that we all carry within ourselves. So alhamdulillah, Ramadan is about caring not only for the one who are fasting, but around you, whoever it is. It is a high state of being, a consciousness, that with this consciousness, even after Ramadan, you have to live by, you have to serve, you have to be conscious. Ramadan brings us consciousness, not only to the hunger that we experience, but also the spiritual void that we have. It is the contentment. It is the day long, we don't feel really like tired, that, okay, I've not eaten all day and I'm praying all night, meditating all night. It gives you that energy that you continue for the rest of the year. So Ramadan is the month that gives you the energy for the rest of the month. And a lot of my friends, not only Muslims, the non-Muslims also, they fast during this month. They serve even in Ajmer Sharif. I have so many friends like Nidhi and all, they send there, So every year in Dargah, we used to serve thousands of people, but now we are doing the same act of service door to door with all the precautions from the government guidelines on social distancing. But alhamdulillah, I pray that this barakat of Ramadan stay with us year long and each day. And people who get attuned to the ways of Ramadan continue this way even after when the world open to new realities. Because one thing we have to understand, that the world will not be the same anymore that we used to live before. I have been talking about this. I have been telling everyone that the losses of life, the materialistic, the economic losses, the changes around the world, that is of course very, 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 very grim, very, very sad. But the greatest loss out of this pandemic, whenever we open this world, will be if we continue to the old ways of halat-e-ghaflat that we were living in, that our small profits and losses would make us, say consciously or unconsciously, lies, greed, lust, all those ways of the world. If we continue to those days back, I think that will be the greatest loss. So that is my humble request and a prayer, that when we open up to the new realities of the world, be conscious. Don't just give in to the blind materialistic of the world. Don't be conscious. Don't be just engage yourself in your profit making or the losses and engage in the blind materialistic pursuits. Develop, evolve, but with clarity, sincerity, and humbleness. I think that is the take that we all should take from this COVID-19 pandemic, with all healing. Inshallah, that is our prayer. Let's not get back to the old deceitful ways of the world. Let's open up the truthfulness of the world that the Lord has created. And all faiths talks about this, all the sacred text talks about it. Let's not just be the readers of the text. Let's be the followers of the faith and the followers of the text.
Implement in action, as you said. We're completely out of time now, Salman ji. Inshallah, आपको फिर से बुलाएंगे बहुत जल्दी. This has been such a refreshing, insightful, and profoundly power-packed conversation.
बहुत बहुत दुआएं और यही इस दुआ के साथ कि बगरदाबे बला उफ्ताद कश्ती ज़ईफ़ानो शिकस्तारा तो पुश्ती महक के ख्वाजा उस्मान हारूनी मदद कुन या मोइनुद्दीन चिश्ती इलाही ताबूत खुर्शीद माही चिराग चिश्ती यारा रोशनाए चिराग चिश्ती यारा रोशनाए. With the Quranic dua for the opening verses of Surah Fatiha. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim Sirata al-lazina an'amta alayhim Ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim walad-dallin Ameen. Qul huwallahu ahad Allahu as-samad Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Subhana Rabbil Izzati amma yasifun wa salamun mursalin walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Mahaki la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lots of duas for you, Shloka ji, Nidhi ji. May your spiritual maqam be elevated. May all the people who have been involved in these series, all the masters who joined earlier and in future, inshallah, let's be together in prayers for our world, and the listeners and the people who have been commenting, asking questions, may all their prayers be fulfilled. May all they be healthy, inshallah. That's the dua from Ajmer Sharif, from Dargah of Khwaja Gharib Nawaz. Peace be upon all of you. Thank you.
Ameen. और हम आपको join जरूर करेंगे अजमेर में once the lockdown is over. I have promised you that. We are indeed happy that you have shattered so many stereotypes today. We are very grateful for this. We hope all of us can take away these pearls of wisdom that Salman ji has given us today. You can view more about Salman ji and the Chishty Foundation on the links flashing on your screen. One request, Chishty Foundation, engaged in community building, education, medical help, skill development, has been working towards providing door-to-door relief in raising funds for distributing free food packets and relief work to the needy people. Your contribution has the power to help them achieve this further. In case you would like to, please use the link flashing on your screen and make the contribution. I implore you. We'd like to profusely thank Salman ji, Chishty Foundation, Nasir ji, the producers of the show, Union, You Rock, and Abhay Singh Kumbawat. Our co-host, Mystics of India, we're slightly out of time. We're sorry about that. And to all of you who trusted us with adding well-being to your lives, it has been an absolute privilege to have you with us today. Thank you so much. Happy Ramzan to all. Happy Ramzan. Adab.
Ji, and might I just add, Nidhi ji, next week to all our viewers, we will be having with us Satpal Singh ji from the UK, a Gurmat spiritualist and philosopher imparting the teachings of Nanak ji. This will be airing live on 24th May, Sunday, so please do join in. Happy Ramadan. Please keep the wave of well-being going.
Sab pe dua. Ameen.